welcome back to the L1 show. Today's October 5th, and we're doing, business and social.
And
My
normally,
brain just completely,
I thought that you were just depressed by the
that
first story.
too. Yeah.
I would normally start with like probably the newest hardware news, unless there was something really exciting going on in the business world. But this week I've instead moved these two stories to the front for obvious reasons.
How to set up Overwatch 2 SMS protection as part of the defense matrix.
They missed your sad
Slump,
slump,
yeah.
and also you're way away from your microphone now. So, Krista, what is the defense matrix?
So in Overwatch, there's a character named Diva, one of my mains, who has a defensive ability called the Defense Matrix. This is them for Overwatch 2, basically making it so it's harder to smurf, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but why cell phone?
Now, why would they have waited until now to try and stop the Smurfs? I can't figure that out.
Because the game is free to play now.
Oh, so you mean I don't have to spend another $20, $30 every time I cheat?
So now they actually care about smurfing. Huh. Weird how that happens. Also, if you are a Cricket web or Cricket mobile user, someone who uses like a prepaid phone, this will not work. So a lot of people on the Overwatch forums very upset by that.
No plebs.
Yeah. Well, I guess because they think, Smurfs will just go out and buy a prepaid
Wow.
cell phone.
There's a lot of precocious technical, like that difficult age from like 11 or 12 to like not an adult. And their only option is the prepaid cell phone because their parents will not get them a cell phone.
Well, even if you're just, poor, you have a prepaid cell phone. A lot of people upset by this.
Don't you think there's a good argument, though, that excluding that demographic makes the game better for everybody else?
The poors? I guess, yeah,
Well,
it's
no.
better for Blizzard's bottom line.
No, the age range that he was talking
Oh,
about.
the kids, maybe. Yeah.
Not young kids, but like those teenagers who are, the worst mentally, but also way better than you at the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want those people in my
Right,
matches.
exactly. Well, that's not the only big news that we had about Overwatch. And this one, you have to ask yourself, well, if you're not charging money for the game, how do you guarantee that you get some sort of return
gosh.
on your players?
New Overwatch 2 players will need to play 100 matches to unlock original characters. So if you already own Overwatch 1 and you've played it, you will get all the characters by default. But if you're completely new to the game and you just hop in, when you first start playing, a lot of stuff will be locked. So you won't play certain maps, you won't get certain heroes. Obviously, skins and stuff will all be locked. Like, it really is kind of just becoming pay to win. Which is,
Exactly
wow.
what they wanted.
Well, there's a meme going around with Jeff Kaplan, who's the old game director. It's his picture. It's like, if only you knew how bad things really are. Everyone kind of thinks he left for a reason now. And it does kind of look that way.
Doesn't look good. But we'll see. Now, they did point out that there are so many heroes that you should get a new one every 3 to 4 games.
That's frustrating, though, because at least the original game, and I don't know if maybe they're looking to not do this in the new game, but like in Overwatch 1, the way it was balanced was that hero swapping was part of the game. Like if someone swapped to, say, like Pharah, who's a flying character, you would need a hit scan character to be able to snipe her out of the sky. Will those characters be locked?
Yes.
And then you'll just be screwed while the other character dunks on your team? Like,
No, you'll be expected to grind and learn and get good like everybody else, and then you can participate.
fun. So fun. Or you can just pay to skip all of that.
You could do that. I think I'll just abstain.
Yeah, I'm not really that excited for Overwatch 2, to be
I'm
honest.
going to go back to RimWorld and let the rich story unfold in my mind as the game gives me details about the art piece that was inspired by the raid that the robots did.
And you only had to buy that once.
Yeah.
Although that DLC is a little high priced. Well, now we will move into the hardware world. And first, before we talk about the hardware itself, we must talk about an argument. One side is saying that we've moved into a new era, and the other side is saying, no, we will keep cramming transistors until the end of time.
Intel says Moore's Law is alive and well. Nvidia says that it ended. So Nvidia had their press release thing for the 4090 GPUs, which we'll cover in a minute. But Jensen, the CEO of Nvidia, got on stage and he said, look, the era of Moore's law is over. Things are going to be more expensive. These GPUs have an absurd number of transistors, and you're going to pay dearly for every single one of them. Maybe a little tone deaf, because they also told investors that their average selling price had gone up, but the profit margins had gone down from like 70% to 67% or 63% or something
Tragic.
like that, which is, everybody's a little salty about that. Meanwhile, Pat Gelsinger gets on stage from Intel and is debuting Rocket Lake, which has got 8 more cores at the top end. And he's saying, these transistors are amazing.
Imagine you own a grocery store and he's arguing about 60% margins.
Or a restaurant.
Oh,
yeah.
really? Also, you've told a lie there. We will not be talking about the 40 series. We did that last week.
Oh, yeah.
We will only be talking about this, which is destined to be Krista's favorite generation of Intel CPUs.
Intel's 13th gen Raptor Lake. We own milkraptorlabs.com. Are official, launching October 20th.
Not a huge hardware person, but like I am continually puzzled by how they name some of these things. Like, who was like, yeah, Raptor Lake?
Well, it's just because, 13900K is not memorable.
But Raptor Lake, that kind of implies that there might be raptors there.
It's funny too, because we learned that on the down low that they didn't plan this generation to release it. They were looking a year ago at AMD's trajectory, and they said, oh crap, we need to release this.
Jurassic Park wasn't planning on releasing the raptors either, so.
Well, they smashed some more cores in there, and they pumped the clock up a little bit. They're claiming, 12% or 15% more.
Yeah, their graph
seems a little iterative. Here's the pricing and rollout.
Well, you get 24 cores for the 13900K now instead of 16, which is kind of bananas.
Aren't these up in the power a bit too?
Maybe not. I mean, it's still technically the same power envelope, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They didn't really change anything with the chipset. They technically gave you 2 more USB ports, but if you look at some of the old Level 1 motherboard reviews, it was like, hey, it looks like there's an extra USB port here that's just disabled.
Well, if you are planning a tablet purchase for your holiday, maybe they'll be able to get these to the market in time, although probably not. However, I feel that in previous years, if you bought a foldable device, you are now going to be forgotten, as will your device, because they'll never support them again.
Intel and Samsung are getting ready for slidable PCs. Foldable is out, slidable is in. So basically, you just grab the frame and you stretch it, and an internal mechanism unrolls the screen.
Again, what's the use case? Are we really bringing back scrolls?
Well,
the Elder Scrolls.
It fits in your purse and then it gets big. That makes sense.
It's they have to do a crossover event with the next Elder Scrolls game.
I'm honestly surprised that this feels like if Apple were spending some of their $1 trillion, this feels like something Apple would come up with, where it's like, oh look, it's an iPad Mini, and then just and it's like, oh, it's the iPad Giganto.
I worry about the structural integrity of the hollow part.
Yeah.
When unfolded. Like, can you imagine, it's like, oh, the doorbell rings and you toss that down and then Rue comes and lays on it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that'd be an issue.
Also, I just feel like every time I've worked with something that's like a scroll format, it's just not fun to use, and I can't imagine a digital version of that being any better. But
also in that GIF, there was a very slow, controlled unfold.
Yeah, well, he wasn't like, shh.
You think there's some sort of gearing system that fights you, or
Yeah.
was he just being very careful with the prototype?
Some of the fold, like I noticed the mechanism with like the Galaxy Fold. I get a really early one, and then there's a really late one. And when I was playing with it, I don't have it, but I know people that got them. And I noticed that the hinge did have a completely different feel in the later one, and it was very slow. Like if you just let it sit, it was very slowly.
That's what I want from my device.
Well, it's better than ripping it in half accidentally.
I guess, yeah.
And Apple, of course, got the new iPhone 14, and it's got that little pill-shaped thing, which seems to be the only big evolution that they've had. But behind the scenes, some things are changing.
Apple begins making the iPhone 14 in India, marking a big shift in its manufacturing strategy. I seem to recall that this article doesn't really, it glosses over it, But remember there were riots when they freshly opened Foxconn facility because they didn't pay anybody for like 3 or 4 months? Had a little bit of a rocky start there in India.
But now they're doing great. So they're doing like 12, 15% there, but they're saying, yes, we would like to move more and more. And it's not just the Indian market phones that are being made there. They are making some that are being exported.
As the global dysfunction intensifies.
You got to be a little bit worried about China, huh?
Some of that is, the geopolitical stuff, but also it's probably like, this is, 10% cheaper, so let's just move it. Like, they'll just keep doing that. They'll keep moving it to the cheapest place, which is terrible.
I bet they've gone ahead and cast a die for the stamp for made in annexed Taiwan.
Oh.
Just like, so we can roll right over to that.
No, they won't even mention Taiwan. It'll be
South China.
Yeah.
The South China Island. Amazon surprised everyone by actually updating the Kindle.
Kindle Scribe brings writing to Amazon's popular e-reader. This is only because there was another e-ink writing thing, rewritable or something. That one? No, not that one.
This is the Amazon.
That's
one.
the Amazon one.
I just really like this illustration.
He looks happy.
It's e-ink.
So yeah, actually I think Asus and one other company brought this to the table first. Now, Krista, they claim that because of, they've gotten the screen to the point where you will get real, it feels like paper. You'll get that feedback when drawing on it. You think that's
I'd be interested
possible?
in trying it. I mean, like I said, the best experience I've had has still been the Apple Pencil, but
you don't get any feedback with that. It's
not really.
smooth.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
you
which
can get
would
you can get screen protectors.
Do you want the?
Yeah, that is better if you're trying to simulate the feel of being on paper, I think.
But I'm saying just forget paper. Is that a better experience for art than a smooth screen?
I would say overall, yeah. I like a little, they call that tooth with paper. I like a little tooth.
Nice.
But I mean, the screen is fine too. I think it just depends on what you're looking for, what you prefer. It's a preference.
What a non-answer.
I know.
Oh, this was missorted.
Ah.
Intel also brought another thing to the table. Remember when they promised this with Windows 11 launch?
I was going to ask, yeah. Well, it goes farther back. It goes back to Windows 8. Intel's Unison app syncs iOS and Android phones to your PC. Do you remember when Windows 8 launched? One of the launch features for Windows 8 was the connected standby, I think is what it was called. So like the demo was, your laptop's asleep and you open it up and then it's got to download all your email and it's got to do all this nonsense. And connected standby was your machine is going to wake up and with very little power, it's going to sync your email and it's going to download your stuff and all, because iPad would do that. If you had your mail program on an iPad and you turn your iPad on, it had already downloaded all of your mail and everything since the last time you turned it on and had used very, very little power to do it. Connected standby was the same promise on PCs with Windows 8. And that that was a dumpster fire. And that was 5 years ago. This reads like this is supposed to work the same way. Like Intel is saying, hey, we finally, no one used connected standby. So we're doing it ourselves with Unison.
But you also can respond to text messages and stuff like that via the PC.
Yeah.
And I think you can even take the calls through the PC's equipment, right?
There's an app that's built into Windows 11 that's supposed to do that, but nobody uses it because it's buggy AF and garbage. Like whoever's working on like Microsoft Teams and that application and all of the other interconnected, how is it so hard? How is it that Microsoft struggles with those things to the extent Microsoft cannot even get the start menu to work in a deterministic fashion.
Yeah, but they have those bummer Bert stickers in Teams, so aren't you happy with that?
I click start and it's just because I don't want to deal with the start menu. It's just random every time. It's like, I found all these applications and it's like, I don't trust this. I'm just going to type the thing that I want. And then that's also just non-deterministic. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it searches the web.
Yeah.
Even though you get the word exactly right because you didn't give it enough time to populate the results. What a great piece of software. Well, do you think Intel can succeed where Microsoft didn't? Because this could also be buggy AF.
I don't think so. I think this is going to be one of those things where if you do start to use it, they're going to abandon it. And then it's just the frustration of, I had a thing that kind of worked better than the other thing, and now you've just let it languish.
What savage foreshadowing.
Google is shutting down Stadia. Oh, no!
Surprising no one.
Now, there's some really amazing things with this. Is one, they didn't tell any of the game developers, so my Twitter is littered with game developers saying, "Do what now?"
Excuse me? That's there's that website that's like dead Google projects, and we can just slide this one right up in there.
Now, the thing here is like, Stadia. They launched an online game streaming service to make gaming available to everybody. And maybe it just wasn't launched at the right time. I mean, it was launched, during a global pandemic where there was hardware shortages and no one could buy gaming gear. and
they were stuck at home.
But
you're describing reasons that it should have succeeded.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And it
Also,
still didn't succeed?
Amazon's got theirs, right? What was the name of the Amazon one? I think that's still around, right?
Is it?
Amazon's was different, though. Amazon was AWS for games that are like that. So
No, you could sign up and just do
regular games.
Yeah. You could just stream. That's a different library.
The only thing that I can think of with Stadia that was not "quote unquote" Google's fault is that we have this weird copyright maximalism thing where if I own a game and I just want to stream it, and I want to stream it from Google's hardware, the game companies suddenly want Google to give them money because Google has money. I don't think that's right. I don't think that should be allowed under copyright law. But Google actually did give a lot of money to a lot of game publishers in order to be able to have games on Stadia. And I think that's wrong and also egregiously stupid.
But that was the difference between their business model and the Nvidia model, where you didn't have to buy the games. Although at some point you could buy the games, right?
Yeah, we'll see with the Nvidia model, it has to stream from your machine to do an end run around the copyright thing. Because if it's streaming from Nvidia's hardware in the cloud, oh no, Activision wants their cut.
I remember now. The difference, the Amazon one was like a Netflix model. The Google one, you still had to buy the games, right? Stadia?
Some of the games.
Anyway, you definitely had to buy some of them because you will get your money back for, I think, your entire subscription.
Yeah.
And all the games that you bought.
Yeah. Unlike Amazon, where, what was that? There was a TV series recently that disappeared from your Amazon thing, even if you bought it. It was like, oh, we lost the license.
There's a few things like that I've seen pop up recently, and people were really upset by it.
There was no refund, which,
and no explanation. It was just like, oh, sucks to suck.
Yeah. It's like, well, you know what? You need to just have local control of your media and not have any cloud nonsense. Do you think, what percentage of the Stadia thing do you think was the fact that Google was sort of famous for just ending things abruptly?
I think, just at some point, they were probably more willing to do it because they are willing to just kill whatever. But at some point, those numbers had to be horrific.
Yeah. Well, apparently they were paying developers to release a game on November 1. And so it's like, oh, we can enjoy 2 months of this game on Stadia.
Well, if they're going to give you all your money back, are they going to give you the money between now and then?
See, I don't think they're going to give the developers the money that they were promised.
Well, we've learned that in this twisted new reality that the young people, apparently, when they need directions or weather or whatever, they don't go to the traditional places for that. They go to TikTok.
Well, you're thinking it wasn't that kind of stuff. It was like restaurant recommendations and stuff like that. They go to TikTok for that.
Right, but there was also, they said that there was like tutorials, learning to do things or whatever. They would go to TikTok first.
Right.
And if they needed to like know what news was happening, I want someone to read it to me on TikTok or whatever.
Hi.
And
we have a Patreon and a flip plane if you're
I
interested.
think we have a TikTok too, which
we don't use a whole lot, but we do post on it every now and then.
But it seems like that's the new reality. It's like, I don't want to go to the traditional places. I want to go to places where other people are posting things. And I want to get all that disinformation as opposed to the official disinformation. And Google says, okay, we'll adapt to that.
Google is making it easier to find search results from Reddit and other forums.
Which means that forums are dead.
Do people not know about site:/reddit.com? I have used that in the past where
oh yeah,
it's like I need to find if you search for products or you search for certain kinds of things, there's so much blog spam that Google just doesn't seem to care about that it's usually better to search for that thing site:/reddit.com and then read the comments.
Because you'll find actual human beings discussing it instead of, blog spam where it's literally just like random AI generated content. But the thing is like, it's going to ruin Reddit and forums and stuff like that, because
The
they're all
agencies
gonna
will move into
it'll all turn into advertising and AI spam, and then it'll
know-
move on to something else. We'll all go to something
You know
else.
where it's not going to turn into AI forum advertising? Forum.com.
Level1text.com.
You know what also won't be used by Google in the aggregated search results? Well, everything you just said about Reddit, that it's going there.
Oh
Going
yeah,
there?
Yeah,
it's already there, but it's gonna get worse, unfortunately.
Well, Google Fiber has been sort of just languishing. I think they took the summer off.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we're just going to consolidate, think about our lives, maybe paint some pictures. And then
Hike some trails.
it wasn't Comcast, it was Charter, right? Charter was like, yeah, we're doing 2 gig. We're going to compete. And Google was like, okay, I guess we got to roll it out.
Google Fiber touts 20 gigabit download speed in test, promises eventual 100 gigabit. So this kind of makes sense. The actual like transceiver modules, like the 25 gig SFP communication modules, at this point are marginally more expensive than the 1 gig ones. So if you already have fiber, you should be rocking 25 gig or better. Even 100 gig ones. The 100 gig ones are only like $200 or $300. So I mean, you could go with 100 gig fiber if you've already got the fiber in place.
Now, in my career of listening to podcasts, I've heard so many podcasts simultaneously claim we're number one.
Mm-hmm.
But they break it down to such a degree, like the demographics and the different sites that track it and so forth. And it's all lies. They're all lying about being number one. No one knows who number one is. And they can cheat their way to the number one.
Podcasters are buying millions of listeners, raising questions about marketing tactics.
In case you're not familiar, you should think about this for literally everything, because they buy watchers, they buy reviewers, they buy everything. It's all being bought.
The Level 1 Text podcast has the highest social dysfunction of any membership.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm sure there's some worse.
Definitely not. Yeah, so it's all on downloads, right? Because when you download a podcast, you download a file. And even if you never open that file, that gets counted as a download, and they measure it by downloads. So what they're doing here is you click on an ad to get some free like crypto or game download stuff, or, you know, some DLC or something. And then that automatically spawns the download. So now you are a podcast downloader. You may never look at that file. You might not even realize that your browser downloaded it. It's just in your downloads folder.
So it's like my television viewing habits.
Exactly.
Yeah, Amazon claimed that they got 25 million samples of the first episode of Rings of Power.
Samples?
But they didn't define what that meant. Like, did people turn it off after 20 minutes? Or, like, did they turn it off after the first episode? It's not clear.
They moused over it on the grid view. That was a sample.
When they were going to their cart, because it's been aggressively spammed on the Amazon homepage.
You literally can't move your cursor over the cart icon without hitting an autoplay.
Yeah.
It's surrounded so that it can see a mouse event.
It's pervasive in every industry, not just podcasting.
I don't remember explicitly saying that, but I'm pretty sure we predicted this, and I couldn't be happier.
NFT sales have lost nearly all their allure. 97% reduction since the beginning of 2022.
Who could have guessed?
So what you're saying is now is the time to own a Bored Ape?
No.
Yeah, you don't want to. Unless you just like the artwork.
But it was only 34 cents.
But I didn't find those. Krista, I guess you're a better judge of this than I am. I didn't find those to be particularly delightfully artistic.
I wouldn't necessarily want to own one. I mean, I guess if you like that style of artwork. But that's the thing, right? Like, people weren't buying it because they appreciated the artwork. They were buying it because they thought, oh, it'll appreciate, and then I can sell it.
I have been tempted. I will confess that I've been tempted to not buy one or own one, but to just randomly select 4 and do like an Andy Warhol style, like grid of 4 of them, and just print it out on like letter paper and just put it on a wall somewhere.
And then burn it.
just for the lulls.
I would think less of you if I walked into your office and saw that. A lot less.
I know, because it's just like, why do you have this? And it's just like, I don't know. It's funny.
No, see, you have to get it and then destroy it in some way to really make people angry.
But he's not even going to buy it.
Yeah.
He's going to
just print them out.
He's going to violate the
You can't do that.
My favorite thing, I don't know what happened to it. We used to have one of those in the bathroom, and it was the sailboat that had been pixelated, and it was just hanging on the wall. in
Yeah,
the
it was
bathroom.
the broken JPEG image was in the bathroom.
Yeah, we had that one too. Yeah. It was the censorship. Yeah.
Well, we have, we're watching a lot of online videos. I know I am.
Yeah.
Consuming a lot of YouTube, and it's always nice when we get a better compression algorithm.
AV1 update reduces CPU encoding times by up to 34%. This is talking about the RTX 40 series GPUs, but I really feel like it's a little bit of stolen valor because Intel with their Arc GPUs, oh boy, they're trying. They had AV1 first, I think, like a good implementation of AV1.
Probably not the adoption rate that you'll get with the 40 series.
Oh boy, they're trying.
And of course, we got all these fancy new AI image generation modules, and they're fun. A lot of people playing with them.
This is clickbait and lies.
And people are using them in ways that they weren't intended to be used and maybe shouldn't be used.
Ars Technica has better than JPEG. Researcher discovers that Stable Diffusion can compress images. That's a lie. That's not. No one even. No. So this is somebody that was looking for a text prompt that would regenerate the source image, and they found some. And so like they can produce an image that's smaller than WebP and smaller than JPEG.
I don't think it's necessarily the text that they're saving. It's like when you give it text, it chooses a number of related topics and weights them.
Yeah.
So it's the topics and the exact weights.
It's the grid of numbers. It's not even the text part of it. It's just the floating point values, which is why it's so many kilobytes. But this is not really compression.
But imagine if we stored it like that, because when that gets reconstructed, if the data set changes, it could change, right?
Yeah.
So it would be like a morphing
Yeah.
storage. You would never get the original back again.
That's the other thing too. A lot of people don't understand. I've noticed in like the war threads that are talking about all the drone footage and surveillance, whatever. They're like, oh, we've just got a few pixels here, and they use something like Stable Diffusion to enhance it. They don't understand that those things are synthesizing new information. It's not revealing latent information about the pixels. It's filling in the picture information with something that plausibly could be there, but that might not be accurate.
It's like the DNA. It's frog DNA in the dinosaur.
Yeah.
But the AI is choosing. It's not necessarily frog DNA. It's chef's choice.
Yeah.
By the AI.
Yeah.
We'll put whatever we need in here.
It's not a dinosaur. We'll say that.
Although the most mind-blowing one that I've seen that, you remember the old school Fallout, how, it was like the isometric view and it was like the really pixelated characters and stuff. Somebody fed all those assets into Stable Diffusion to get high resolution versions, and it was shockingly good.
That makes sense. Well, Netflix, they have games, and a lot of people don't seem to notice that. I think we learned that it's only on mobile for whatever reason. So I guess most people probably don't watch Netflix on their phone. I don't know. Maybe the young people do.
I've heard that some people do, and that's why streaming shows tend to like do really like tight shots on actors' faces.
My God. That's kind of like,
it's a weird way to consume a television show.
we already had that with IMAX, where they would shoot for IMAX, but it's like, bro, most of us aren't watching it on IMAX.
Yeah.
Anyway, they seem to be committed to it, even though no one seems to be using it.
Netflix is building its own game studio. This report comes after the report just a few months ago where less than 0.001% of people even cared that Netflix had games.
Didn't they make Arcane? And then they just did that Cyberpunk show, right? So maybe they're trying to do tie-in like DLCs with their shows.
They are claiming that Cyberpunk show is driving huge sales for Cyberpunk 2077. It's resurging.
It didn't go the other way though, because remember they had the Stranger Things video game. There was an Android game, and then they rolled it into something you could actually play in Netflix, and literally no one cared.
Yeah, but Cyberpunk is an actual game versus a mobile trash. I don't know, but people like mobile trash these days.
I don't know. Maybe they're trying to appeal to PC gamers with that. I don't know.
Well, you know who's trying to appeal to somebody? Because if you recall, they were not doing well, and now I bet their user base has dwindled. Because I don't think that the Wall Street Bets people are as enthusiastic as they once were. Although now might be the time to be.
Robinhood debuts a new non-custodial crypto wallet with Polygon to 10,000 beta users. Engagement challenge. Explain all this in the comments below.
Well, if you store your crypto on Robinhood right now, they have custody of it. This presumably gives you custody of it.
Okay. But engagement challenge, what's the catch?
It's still a Robinhood app. They can still turn it off if they want to, I imagine.
It's stored on your phone. They can remotely activate your phone and take your crypto anytime they want.
Well, we saw that Cloudflare is certainly disrupting a lot of the web business. They are solidly in control of the infrastructure. So they're saying, maybe we take control of some other stuff.
Cloudflare takes aim at AWS with a promise of $1.25 billion to startups that use its own platform. So basically, this is just giving away tokens. This doesn't actually cost them $1.25 billion. That's probably already a sunk cost for them.
Chuck E. Cheese tokens.
This is also low code, no code type of hosting. I don't know exactly how it works, but they're real proud of it. We'll see. They'll give you a bunch of money if you put a venture capital project on there. And I don't understand how these are going to work. I think this is as big as they get. I don't think you go bigger than this because unless, we discover some new incredible technology, this is as good as we're going to do.
An all-electric passenger plane completed its first test flight. Small craft carries big hopes for a more sustainable aviation, but there are some serious roadblocks.
What do you think the charge time is on that?
Way too long.
You have to have a lightning cable, and then you can do it in like an hour.
Just a little tiny.
Yeah, just a little.
It melts immediately. Now, with modern planes, they spend an insane amount of time in the air per day, right? Like they just turn them around and turn them around and turn them around. This would disrupt that, right?
You'd have to have a lot, a bigger fleet.
And you'd have to have parking spaces.
Maybe you have modular packs and you can just eject the battery pack out the back.
Parking at airports is already so terrible.
I'm positive that the crew who would be handling those battery packs would handle them gently and not just throw them. Because
I've seen how they handle my baggage. I know that they would take very good care of that.
For those Teslas that are speeding in a residential neighborhood and they disintegrate, the resulting lithium ion fires are something to behold.
Now imagine that falling into your home from the sky.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Although jet fuel, also caustic.
Yeah.
And dangerous.
Yeah. Perhaps more caustic than we realized.
Dangerous reference. Well, every week we got to have another big tech company just crapping the bed.
DocuSign to cut workforce by 9% as part of restructuring plan. It's hard to imagine something as mundane as document signing could be a .com. It's just like,
everybody uses it though.
Yeah.
And they had to have a huge time during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Because somehow they fumbled that. Or maybe it just grew too much. I don't know. Yes. So this is never let a crisis go to waste, right? And so if you are these subsidized monsters who can never get enough, now's a good time to stick your hand out.
Exclusive with eye on big tech energy crisis, EU telcos call for shared network costs. So this is I think the European Union should fine them just for being so unethical.
Just for being insolent.
Contempt. Yeah. Contempt of life.
I mean, this is just so... first of all, for a telecommunications company, the cost of operating the network is vanishingly small compared to literally everything else, first. Even if you're running 100 gigabit and all this other kind of stuff. Second, they don't maintain their infrastructure properly. Third, the profit margin is insane. Fourth, the reason that they're freaking out is because of growth. They have captured the entire market. There is no room to grow because there are not people to use the network. The only thing that they can do is make the network more expensive or find new creative ways to bilk people out of money.
And they argue that these sites should share the cost because they're creating the traffic. But if they didn't create the traffic, you wouldn't have a business model.
Yeah.
No, don't think about that. Just agree, and so we can keep charging.
Well, if you want an EV, they are pricey. But one company is trying to make a little bit more affordable one, and people seem to be gobbling it up. However, there's a huge problem because they don't make it here in America, and these new rules say you got to do it.
Kia plans to build EVs in the U.S. to comply with new federal tax credit. Kia will have to play ball once the law goes into effect. So I read a different version of this article, and it was really just to do with lithium and battery production. And so it's like, okay, some of that's going to happen here in America, but the problem that the U.S. law had was really just around some of those forbidden minerals and like rare earths and stuff like that coming from China. And that was most of the problem.
But that's still a problem.
Yeah.
They haven't solved that one yet.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you have to manufacture the whole car here, but you just have to source the lithium and the batteries from not China.
I think you do have to do like the last assembly here or something like that.
Well,
They're going to build something here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Amazon vans on the road, those are just perpetual now.
Yeah.
And of course they would have to be because they're moving so much stuff. Now, I thought that's what this was about. And when I read the number, I was like, wow, that's an astonishingly low number.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what this is about. This is the big trucks.
Yeah.
This is the freight trucks. So when you think about these having that many accidents, a little more alarming.
Amazon hires unsafe trucking firms twice as often as their peers, the Wall Street Journal has found.
I found a good picture for this article too, where it's the truck in the middle of the intersection.
And so they found, how many was like 75 out of 3,000?
It's not the long haul. I mean, it's not the last mile delivery. It's the long haul delivery that's the problem.
Killed 75 people since 2015. Now, when you talk about the vans again, I'll be like, oh, that's not that bad. But when those big trucks are killing people on the road, it's like, wow. So they did. Also, Amazon responded to this and it was like, oh, we're cautious. And they pointed out that some of these had killed again after going under review for killing.
We got the taste of blood.
Oops. Maximum overdrive all of a sudden. So, yeah. I mean, but in Amazon's defense, I mean, I'm not really defending them, but they're probably hiring every truck they can, right?
Yeah.
Like, what else are they going to do?
Not get stuff to people quite as quickly, I guess.
They've actually, my one-day deliveries have come back online. Like, they're one-daying me again.
I haven't ordered stuff from them for a little bit.
For a while, they could not do that.
We're about 50-50 with that for the deliveries for here, for them being on the day that they say they will be.
It's not back to the glory days, for sure.
Yeah.
We're never going back there. And here's a shocking news flash. If you owned a crypto mining warehouse, you're having a bad time right now.
Compute North files for bankruptcy as crypto mining data center owes up to $500 million. I read this and I was trying to understand how they could possibly screw this up, because if you have data center space right now, just for general compute, not the crypto mining part, like just space and the computers, you can make a lot of money.
Because they were holding coins. I think.
Yeah. And I think that they also didn't negotiate well for some of their stuff, because they have contracts to deliver, 100 megawatts worth of stuff, and they didn't figure on the cost of electricity going up, which seems really dumb. Suspiciously dumb.
God, it's so weird that we let people make those kinds of stupid investments, like, way out in the future. Oh, Bank of England.
Ooh. I haven't followed that too closely. Is it as bad as it seems to be?
Oh, the entire financial system should have stopped. They should have destroyed the world. So here's the thing about it. When you have pensions and retirement funds,
Righto.
You can't invest in risky stuff. You can't just be like, hey, we'll go all in on Tesla. Because it's like, no,
That screws over your people. Yeah.
This is people's retirement money. You don't have any skin in this game. You cannot risk. You can't have risk in your investments. So they say, okay, we'll invest in bonds. So you're thinking like, how could you invest in bonds and get a margin call? Just wait. The bond will pay you back eventually. But it was 30-year bonds because they were trying to do something like, I don't know if they were using derivatives or if they were just leveraged all the way up to their neck. But when those rates shot up, so inverse, right? Yield goes up, price goes down. They were so leveraged, they got margin called on bonds, on 30-year bonds. And they couldn't pay it. And so the bank stepped in and pulled the yield down by buying bonds at the same time they're supposed to be raising rates. Like literally one hand was doing the opposite of the other just to save the system.
Those poor people that retired, and that's just...
Well, at least they got to retire.
Well, Wendell, you've entered I guess not voluntarily necessarily. Well, voluntarily, but not just because you wanted to. But you've entered the world of fitness monitoring.
Yeah.
How's that going for you?
It's actually pretty good. I find that it's the gamification, the psychological aspect of the gamification is, I'm less resistant to that than I thought that I might have been.
I do
otherwise.
catch you like looking at your watch quite a bit.
What's your step count looking like?
It's like 5,500 a day.
That's not bad.
6,000, something like that. And my flights of stairs goal is 10, which I've maintained for the last 3 weeks. I go up and down 10 flights of stairs a day, at least.
Gamification does make every aspect of fitness easier to do.
Yeah.
You have to admit. Now, you're using a Garmin, I believe. You're not using a Fitbit, but those of you who are using Fitbits, you are gonna love this news.
Fitbit accounts are being replaced by Google accounts. Woohoo! Yeah, the Garmin apps are really insidious about tracking too. It's amazing. I've had to black hole so much DNS stuff for them. It's amazing.
So they're gonna let you go, I think, like the rest of the year, and then you will be forced to switch to Google. And then in 2025, it's okay. Yes, in 2023 they encourage Google. By 2025, all of your old accounts will be gone.
Ooh.
And Amazon, they get you the big end of the year bonus. They used to give them a ton of stock. Do they still give them stock?
I think so.
And a lot of people live for that. They're like, yeah, okay, maybe I don't get to pee every day, but at the end of the year, you're going to take care of me, right?
Oops. Amazon emailed staff with news that miscalculated their compensation.
I've been holding my pee for this.
Oh no.
They should just have to pay whatever the original number was. It's like, oh, you made a mistake. Well, you can afford it.
Well, sucks to suck.
This is what your compensation would have been, but the unions. That's what they should have done.
Do not sign your card.
Yeah.
Well, Walmart is trying to figure out how to indoctrinate the youth. I'm afraid this might work.
You sent this on Twitter, and I was just like, this is going to work.
I saw this video.
It's a crime against humanity that it's going to work.
I would never use Twitter direct messages. I sent that on Teams.
Walmart arrives on Roblox for the first time with 2 new virtual worlds to engage young shoppers. I guess you sent me the link to the tweet. And
which I didn't even realize. I sent you Walmart Land.
Yeah.
But there's another one. What was the name of the other one? Universe of Play.
Yeah.
I bet Sony's pissed about that.
Yeah. Walmart has for a long time been trying to figure out how they can do the whole Hasbro tie-in thing. It's like Walmart has basically said, we want something like He-Man and the toys. Like we want to come up with both things.
Well, it's Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol's in on it.
They haven't cracked that nut, but this is getting close.
So Universe of Play is for your very young kids, like your single digit kids. And then Walmart Land is for your older kids. And it's all packed full of drops and NFTs and collectible items
and flying away from the battle bus.
They literally have a blimp with a big clock on it that counts down, and I guess it drops a drop, and then everybody like zombies like fight for it in the middle.
You remember the Kmart blue light special?
Oh yeah,
we're gonna have that in the store with the blimps.
They would get on that the PA,
yeah,
and tell you about the blue light special, but they would overmodulate it, so it was just like, and you'd have to be like, oh, where's the blue light?
God. People will look back at us and weep.
It's gonna be even more interesting than you realize, Krista, because pretty soon there's gonna be a food lottery, probably.
Yeah. So like, we're talking about people were doing that for like televisions or makeup kits or something, and like in a few years it's gonna be, ooh, I got a really good blue light special, but you had to kill 10 men to get a can of beans.
Man, I was on Walmart Land this morning, and I hit like 5 captchas in a row, and I got a food ration coupon.
They literally had somebody at the restaurant or the grocery store that's that way. It was the greeter, and they had moved the kiosk for the rotisserie chicken, and it was now limit 1 per customer.
They're getting killed on those. Oh, you know what I forgot to put in here? Have you seen Walmart? I don't think our Walmart got it, but some Walmarts are getting this really, really hardcore new self-checkout system. And it's just an array of cameras.
The Walmart here has that.
Oh yeah,
the camera looks at you while you do your self-checkout.
And when you scan something, it puts the thing on the screen, the picture of it, and it makes sure that they match.
Oh, I don't think I haven't been to Walmart in a little bit, but they do have the cameras that like it shows your face while you're scanning.
Right, yeah, and all the product, and it's all recorded. Yeah, they're getting serious about that because people are robbing them blind. And some other people are robbing all of us blind. But no one seems to care about that. Now, this is a big fine, but this is cumulative. This is not just one entity because they were all doing it.
Well, Wall Street hit with $2 billion in fines over employees using WhatsApp and other unauthorized messaging apps. I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw somebody attempt to calculate the possible benefits for having this secret communication, and it was way more than $2 billion. So this will continue because the money generated by secret communications that are unauditable was way more than $2 billion.
They got caught doing that several times on those metals fixes.
Yeah.
And, you know, they'd be like, hey, bro, I just need one more day at this before the options expiration, Joe, just one more day. And they're like, I got you, fam. Yeah. And it wasn't just like some rogue traders. The CEOs were doing this.
Yeah.
And of course, we have another escalation over there in Ukraine, huh? So you gotta try to do something.
Who knows? By the time this comes out, who knows what fresh hell will be unleashed?
Maybe this will never come out.
Apple removes Russia's largest social network from the App Store. Remember VKontakte? We've covered it a few times. It's gone.
Now, there is a thing where all Apple phones that are released in Russia legally must have that installed. So they're not sure what they're going to do about that.
I think Apple's not going to have any Apple employees there.
Are they going to do like the McDonald's thing? I guess they can't source hardware at that point.
Well, I think didn't the U.S. State Department tell people, like, if you're a U.S. citizen, get the hell out of Russia? Which it's
long
amazing.
Time ago, yeah.
But they put out another warning. I think
like even the
today.
embassy workers and stuff were like, no, you need to go now.
Everyone is
Just
supposed
drop
to get
everything
out.
and go.
Yeah, I would have been ready for that alert. And they're like, yes, I agree. I agreed with this 6 months ago.
I wouldn't have been there now.
And of course, TikTok working with our other great enemy, China, or at least that's what we're claiming. And they're saying, no, we're doing everything we can to make that not happen.
TikTok inching toward a U.S. security deal to avoid a sale, according to the New York Times. But this is from Reuters.
However, they remember when they wouldn't agree to, like, just tell me right now that you won't send data to China. And they were like, I don't know about that. So I feel like, wouldn't that be a deal breaker? And TikTok is not looking to get caught up in the madness that Facebook did.
TikTok plans to ban all political fundraising on its platform. The platform is introducing new restrictions now, with more to come soon.
And I'm pretty sure, read between the lines here, they're basically saying, like, we don't want any political content at all.
Yeah.
Don't even talk about it. Just dance and bring your cats and make us money. No talking about the sad stuff. No sads. Now, this is interesting because empirically, I got just like a twinge. I think you got pretty sick in one of them.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Did you experience a little bit of the VR sickness too?
Yeah. It was when we played The Forest. I started feeling real.
Moving in games is a real problem with that. Now,
when we were stationary, it was fine. It was games where you had to actually like run in the environment.
Yeah, oddly, Beat Saber was fine.
Because you didn't have to move.
Yeah.
Now, some games will teleport you from place to place to try to defeat that, but I find that's not a good
It
solution.
kind of removes the immersion factor.
Now, according to Meta, 2% of people will experience that. However, the reality might be a little bit different.
Cybersickness could spell an early death for the metaverse.
I mean, it's anecdotal, but 100% of people at this table experience cybersickness.
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah.
So the guy who wrote this article, or the guy they interviewed for this article, was a guy who studied seasickness and space sickness, what happens in space too, and some other stuff. And so he was like, oh, the VR thing like severely affected him. So he said, I want to study this. His number, 67%.
Wow.
Which is bad news if you're a Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, there was a new Zuckerberg video where he was doing augmented reality fencing with somebody else. And the only thing I could think of was no one lives in houses like that unless they're fabulously wealthy.
That's the thing, is you need space to do a whole VR setup.
Well, they had a lot of space.
Well, yeah, but like most people don't. I don't have space in my house for a dedicated VR room.
Well, just get rich. Like
Well,
Mark Zuckerberg.
Just have money.
Yeah, to be clear, they didn't have a dedicated space for a VR room anyway, but the living room was so palatial
Yeah.
that just the walk space between the couch and the television was enough room for you to flail about.
That's probably like the size of my entire home.
Yeah.
How great would it be if someday we get a leaked video of Zuckerberg and like he's filming those scenes and then it's like he has to rip the helmet off and vomit in a gilded bucket and it's like 50
Solid
takes.
gold.
Yeah. He loses like 10 pounds every time they have to record one of those.
I don't think he has normal human
Yeah.
physiology
Well,
Yeah,
like
he would
that.
do that once, look up and say, I've deleted my nausea subroutine.
he uses a gimbal instead of the in the
Yeah.
ear. Yeah. And Meta, as we know, is having a difficult time with Apple. They have disagreements about who should rule the ad space. And here's a shocker.
Meta sued for tap dancing around Apple's new privacy rules. Basically, if you do the Apple privacy thing, you get the advertiser ID, and that'll uniquely identify the individual. So Meta said, you know what, we don't really need that. So they're still capturing and doing that stuff, but without the advertiser ID. And so interestingly here, it's not Apple that's suing. It's a lot of the consumer protection groups, which I think have been asleep at the helm for the better part of a decade.
And they've pretty much proven that Facebook started cheating the second Apple did that.
Yeah.
They started working around it. And they're pretty good at it too. Although we've also learned that Apple probably didn't do that to help anybody but themselves.
Yeah. Apple is not doing this for any kind of moral reason, and perhaps are worse for it.
We also know that Facebook is dwindling. People are not engaging with Facebook like they used to. And obviously, the VR uptake is slow. So this was inevitable.
Mark Zuckerberg says Meta will freeze hiring and cut costs. There's going to be some restructuring, y'all.
They won't cut the VR department. Just the people who handle marketplace.
You know,
That's the best part.
They already cut Farmville, and Farmville was actually a huge profit for them. They should have bought the people that made Farmville.
Now, do you remember, I would say, the last 5 to 6 big Instagram updates, the overwhelming backlash the users had against them?
Yep.
Well, you ask yourself, are these users, are they just being obstinate? If you actually gave them a version that had all that crap removed, would they like it better?
It turns out the answer is yeah. Meta cracks down on an ad-free Instagram client just one day after it launched. The company says that it had taken quote-unquote enforcement actions against the service. So what this app did was it used Instagram and the Instagram API and some web scraping and basically rebuilt sort of the way that Instagram was before Facebook bought them. And so, of course, Instagram had a huge problem with this, blah, blah, blah. But step back from this. Actually, it's really interesting, especially all you Euros. There have been proposals that we've covered from the European Union lawmakers in the past that said they want to separate the platforms with like an API. And even Jack Dorsey at Twitter has said, we want to build kind of a message platform where you can separate the platform from the API and all the stuff that goes into that.
Make it standard.
Right, yeah. That's exactly what these people were doing with Instagram. If the spirit of what the European lawmakers are after, which is laudable, that's a good goal, goes through, then something like this app is what we could look forward to. So think about the positive effect on people in society if you had a bunch of different clients for a bunch of different platforms that were interchangeable because the API was mandated to be open.
Here's the problem. How would you ever sell an ad?
Well, here's the thing with Instagram, which kind of cracked me about this, is like most of the content on Instagram is just ads. Like,
I mean, you could put ads in the client, but you can't really put ads in the API.
would
Right.
it just speed up the creation of content as just ads?
But then this company's making money, not Facebook.
Well,
That's a problem.
I think it becomes capitalistic again and competitive, because if there's two clients that are both running ads, then you're going to go with the client that better serves your needs with the least ads.
But yeah, but that's Facebook's data center. So they're just going to turn that off. Why would you?
I like the idea of the API and the interoperability of your data. I don't know, implementing that is tricky, but I do like the idea of having, I want to have my own Instagram that interoperates with another Instagram. I would be okay with it if
An image sharing service.
Yeah, I would be
Yeah.
okay with it if the infrastructure for this image sharing service was supported by the ads from this program, and the infrastructure for this was supported by the ads from the other, from Meta's version. But I still think it would lead to a net positive result for people.
It would also lead to basically subsistence level earning rather than overwhelming profit,
Yeah.
which means Zuckerberg would not be interested in that.
Because again, isn't that the point of capitalism? It's like you reduce that so that people can earn a living, but not that people get wealthy beyond the dreams of avarice.
Some would say that. Not Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
The other thing about it is, it's interesting because you described the whole European thing, but at least Apple has that explicitly banned in its terms of service.
Yeah.
What the European Union is trying to do. That's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think as of, it was September 28th, whenever that was published. At that point, it was still on Android.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Google's looking at it like, I don't know.
What if people did this with our content?
They got to be thinking that, right?
Yeah.
And finally, this is a fun little project that is at once funny and haha, look what they got, they deserved. But at the same time, oh God, surveillance state.
Yeah.
This controversial artist is matching influencer photos with surveillance footage. The Followers uses artificial intelligence facial recognition technology to comment on the surveillance state. I can't believe that the surveillance footage was this good to be able to do this.
Well, this is in China, right? Where they got that. He's showing the eye in the sky. I can't remember what they call that thing. But, or maybe not. That looks like English.
Yeah. Well, I think London's well known for having that really extensive network as well.
So yeah, there's someone pleading like, please don't sell this. But you know he's already fielding calls.
Yeah.
So
It's amazing. All right, what do we got for Friday?
we always have the same thing. The same thing we do every Friday, Pinky.
Nonsense and robots.
Yay.
And a little bit of space.
Bye.